Step 1. Fold a blank piece of paper into half and draw a straight line in the middle of the paper and label that as your mirror line. Okay, so fold here, half. Right, then after that, make sure you draw this. And label this as your mirror line. Next, to draw a line that's perpendicular to the mirror line, okay, indicate on a point somewhere at the center of the paper, right? Then after that, use a protractor, okay, to roughly measure an angle which is 90 degree here. Right, after that, okay, your line that you draw will be somewhere from here to here. Okay, now the question wants you to actually measure a 4 cm line from the mirror line along this perpendicular line, right? So this line is now perpendicular, so what you need to do is to actually identify, mark out a 4 cm, right? Then this point here will be called your P1. Okay, and this will be 90 degree. Okay, now you are told to actually place a piece of paper on the softboard. So this is the softboard that we'll be using, right? Place the paper on it. Okay, now the mirror that we are using, the plane mirror that we're using is actually this one over here, right? So what you're actually required to do here is to actually place this thing on the side. Alright, now the mirror that we're using is actually slightly different from what is actually given in the question. Okay, so you just have to put it horizontally, make sure that it's along the mirror line, and this is where your light ray will be reflected off the mirror on the softboard. Next, what we are supposed to do here is to insert the toothpick into the softboard at P1. So this is where your P1 is, right? But instead of actually using a toothpick, we will actually be using this pin here with a round circular top on top. Alright, so what you need to do is just to actually punch this through at your P1, right, making sure that this is actually as vertical as possible. Alright, so that when you look at it, okay, from your angle, your vintage point, it should be about as vertical, alright, and 90 degree to the paper. Alright, now if you take a look at this particular pin here, okay, if you notice when we say that it's actually 90 degree to the surface, alright, you notice that this is actually vertically upright, alright, and 90 degree to the surface of the paper, including this side as well. Okay, now if you take a look at the mirror now, right now, we only have one pin which is on P1. Right, but from this vintage point, you will see that there's actually two items. Right, one is actually the green pin, which is at P1 location, and the other one, which is the green pin's image. Right, that's actually in the mirror. Right, now if you place your eyes directly in front of this, right, you will see P1, which is the object here. Right, and this is actually overlapping the mirror image that's actually in the mirror itself. Alright, now when you're able to see this and it's actually overlapping, it means that your eyes is actually at a point which is forming a straight line with the pin at P1 and the image in the mirror. Alright, so what are some of the similarities that you can actually observe in this case about the object at P1 and its mirror image? Okay, now if you notice, they are actually of the same size. Right, and they are actually upright. Alright. Okay, now what we're going to do now is to actually make use of two pins. This kind of pin that you can actually find in your container. Alright, now we are going to actually align these two pins such that they actually form a straight line with the image in the mirror. Alright, now this is actually the actual object that you can see in the mirror. Alright, this is the actual object, and this is actually the image. This is actually the image that you actually see. Alright, so what you need to do is to actually move your eyes from basically vertical, that's actually in front of the pin here, right? You need to actually shave it to somewhere along to the left side, right, where you can actually see two very distinct items. One is the actual object, which is this, and the other one is in the mirror itself. Okay, so what you need to do is to actually try to find an alignment, all right, such that they actually form a straight line. All right, so what you need to do is to actually place your pin such that the first pin actually overlaps the image. All right, do you see here? All right, then pin it in. Okay, so this is actually in line with the image. Okay, then after that, get a second pin, try to go as far as possible, all right, close to the edge of the paper, and make sure that it overlaps with your second pin, your first pin that's actually in the paper, and the image that's actually inside your mirror. All right, so if this is actually a line, okay, this is basically what you will see. All right, it's not very well done, but if you actually place it properly, okay, it should overlap itself quite well. All right, so in the setup, okay, this is what you see when you actually place your eyes above the setup. All right, so when you're doing the sighting, okay, it is very important for you to make sure that you bring your eyes to the eye level, right, to the level of the pin, so that you can do your alignment. Okay, so this is actually the first set of pin, which is on the left side of your paper. Alright, now once you have actually obtained the location of the two pin, this is what you need to do. Alright, so first remove your mirror. Okay, now to make sure that the mirror is stable, please lay it flat, right, so that even if you accidentally knocked it, okay, it will not actually topple. Alright, then what you need to do is to actually remove the two pins. Alright, and your next one. Okay, and what you're supposed to do is to join a line, right, that actually starts from the two pins, right, join a line until it actually reach the mirror. Okay, so this is the line that you are going to be drawing. All right, and we are going to call this L1. All right, now do note that the 2 points of the pin that you have actually inserted, try to make sure that it's actually as far as possible so that the line that you draw is going to be accurate. Now repeat step 7, step 8 again. Alright, now just to actually make sure we are clear, right, this is actually the object that we have actually placed at P1. Okay, and this is actually the image of the object in the mirror. Alright, so do your sighting again. Okay, make sure that the pin that you actually place is able to actually overlap the image of the pin in the mirror. Alright, so this would be how it looks like. Okay, now do the same. Make sure that the second pin is actually further away and as far as possible so that you get the most accurate reading. Alright, then after that, it should overlap your first pin that you place in and the object image. Okay, so this is basically what you'll see again. Okay, now from the top orientation, this is basically what you will observe. Alright. Okay, so after you repeat your step 7, step 8 again, this is basically what you observe. So same thing, I'm going to actually lay and remove my mirror first. Alright, then after that, remove your pins. Alright, and make sure that you join the lines again. Alright, cutting through the 2 pin points that you have actually indicated. Alright, so we are just going to actually align this. Okay, and this will be the line that's on the right side. So let's call this line 1 again. Okay, so overall, this is basically what you will see. Now next, okay, what you're required to do now is to actually extend both your L1s, right? So what we're going to do is to actually extend these lines further, alright, using your ruler that you have. Alright, draw the line further. Now I'm going to draw this as dotted line because this is in fact not where your light rays will actually pass through. Alright, so you just dot the lines across. Now do the same for the one on the right side. Okay, extend the line further. Alright, until there's a point where it intersects both sides. Okay, now the intersection point that you see over here, alright, is basically where your image point is going to be at. Alright, so we'll call this point x1. Alright, next, what you're required to do now is to make sure to actually draw a perpendicular line from the mirror line towards your image x1. Alright, so what you can do is to use your protractor. Alright, make sure that you indicate and you go along this line, and what you'll notice is that over here, this will be the point where you will actually be getting your perpendicular line. Alright, now if this is actually drawn correctly, alright, you will notice that this line, this point where you have actually drawn on the mirror, this one, and this line is going to actually intersect very nicely across your image point. Alright, so the line that you're going to draw now, okay, basically will be from the mirror itself all the way from there to this part, the point X that you have actually indicated on the mirror. Alright, so this particular line will be the distance between your mirror, alright, towards your image of your object, x1. Alright, now what you're required to do in this case is to measure the distance from here all the way down to the mirror itself. Okay, so use your ruler and you do a quick measurement using this, and you will see that the answer that I got is approximately over here. So this will give me about 4.2 cm. Alright, now this is the reading that I obtained for my drawing, alright, and for my sighting. Okay, so what you're supposed to do is to do your own measurement, alright, then after that record this in the appropriate table for your P1. Alright, okay, next, for step 12, what you're required to do is to repeat your step 2 to 11 again, alright, with different distance from the mirror from your object. Alright, so originally this was actually for P1, this is 4.0 cm from the mirror point all the way to your P1. Okay, then next you are supposed to do from P2 to P1, which is approximately 8 cm, then P3 to the mirror, which is approximately 12 cm. Alright, so do your own appropriate measurements, then after that start your plotting. Okay, so if you actually take the measurements for P1, P2 and P3, this would be the final diagram of how your entire piece of experiment would actually look like. Alright, so do a measurement from your X2 to your mirror location, then your X3 to the mirror location. So this is actually the corresponding reading that I have obtained for this particular experiment. So this would be 8 cm. Alright, and for your P3 and X3, the location is approximately 12.0 cm. Alright, so if you do a quick comparison about this distance and this distance to this distance and this distance to this distance, okay, you will see that the reading is approximately the same. Alright, now I'm going to actually extend your learning a bit further. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is to actually make use of one of the lines, which is L1, that I've actually drawn on the right side, to do a bit of a measurement and conclusion. Alright, so if I'm going to actually join a line from your P1 here, which is your original location of your pin number 1, alright, to this point in the mirror. Okay, now this is basically how this would actually look like, this line. Right, now if I'm going to actually use and relay back to what I've actually learned in my reflection concept, alright, for light rays. Okay, object is actually my P1. Okay, so what I will see is that this here is basically your ray that's actually coming out from your object. Alright, and your L1 over here is essentially your reflected ray. Alright, so this here will be a reflected ray, and this here is actually your incident ray. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is to actually try to do a simple measurement, alright, which is to construct a normal line, alright, from this point that's intersecting my mirror. Okay, so draw this normal line from your intersection point. And this is basically where my light ray from P1 is going to be intersecting and reflecting off my mirror surface. So I'm going to construct my normal over here. Alright, now I'm going to do a quick measurement to see what is actually my angle of incident and my angle of reflection over here. Alright, so do a measurement from here. Alright, and you will see that this is approximately 27 degrees. Alright, this here is 27 degrees. This would be your incident ray. Alright, now do the same and measure the angle from this side. Alright, and you will see that this is approximately about 25 degrees or 26 degrees. Okay, and you'll see that these two angles here are approximately the same value. Alright, now you can do the same for other light rays and you do a quick measurement and you'll see that these two angles are essentially the same. Alright, so the 27 degrees over here is actually represented as your angle of incident I. Alright, and this one over here is actually represented as your angle of incident R. Okay, so if you can actually recall one of the key concepts and the laws of reflection that you have learned earlier on, right? You have learned that your angle of incident I is always equals to the angle of incident R. Right? Now obviously the reading here that you see is not exactly the same. That is because of experimental error, maybe because alignment was not taken very accurately. But if you do sufficient experiments and you actually construct the lines, you will see that the values will be approximately the same, alright, within experimental error tolerance level.